to our meeting, our June meeting. Firstly, I have apologies from the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Mealings. They're both in district plan related hearings today. Is there any other apologies?
My father's in critical. If I get a text, I'm going to back away.
Oh, sorry, right, any other apologies? Right, I'll put those. I'll move for the chair, seconded by Councillor Goldsworthy. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Yeah, that's carried. Any conflicts of interest for recording? Okay, just a couple of acknowledgements. Firstly, the acknowledgement for the Rangura Fire Brigade who held their 150th commemoration at the weekend, and just to acknowledge their commitment to our district from their founding times. There were not more than three, there were a number who were there for both the 100th, 125th and now the 150th. They were saying that they were hopeful to be there at the next, but we'll see. But it was a wonderful weekend, and I thought the turnout on Sunday was very heartening, particularly for the brigade, to know how supported they are in our community. They do an outstanding job, and our community would be hugely lacking if they were there. More than just fire and those sort of emergencies, but medical call-outs, our first responders, they do a huge amount. So their role has grown hugely over the years. In the early days, our council was, or the predecessor councils were responsible for a lot of that activity, and then as it's grown, certainly since the Valentine's fire, there was some substantial changes which then came about, and of course the successor organisation FENS. But just to acknowledge our support for the brigade, and Jason, you're a member of the volunteer brigade, as well as there's a number of our staff who are as well, so it's just important to note your contribution, but our thanks to the fire chief and all the crew for what they do. The other is there was three Royal Honours I wanted to acknowledge. Firstly to Bernie Power, who received a King's Service Medal, so that's changed. His first one we've had, the King actually referenced those, so it was King's birthday. So Bernie received that for his many years of dedicated service with St John's. Not only that, with the RSA and a number of other organisations. Bernie's including the McAlpine's Pipe Band, which he's been involved with for a long time. So he's someone extremely deserving of that, and I'm surprised he hasn't had that recognition earlier, actually, because of the role he plays. But it's lovely acknowledgement for him, but also his wife Jenny, who is very active in the community as well. The other was Arahia Bennett. She currently has an MNZM which is a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, but it was upgraded yesterday to the CNZM, which is a companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit. So again, for her role with as Chief Executive of Ngāi but she's played an active role in a lot of other voluntary capacities as well. She's an extremely capable person in our council. We've got to know her over the years through our involvement with waimakariri, but to acknowledge that. Another who doesn't live directly in our district is Elizabeth Cunningham, but we've had lots to do with her with the Environment Canterbury. She was not only a councillor, she was a commissioner there for a while, plus latterly more with civil defence, and she represents Ngāi Tahu in that capability, capacity. She's a very fine lady, and someone many of us will have had involvement with over the years. She was awarded a KSO, which is a King's Service Order, so it's great to see those three, and of course others, acknowledged for what they do with those Royal Honours. So I'll be putting out a statement today acknowledging that on all our behalf. All right, any other acknowledgements?
Just one. I don't think we've noted the passing Andrew Davidson. It was probably some weeks ago.
Yes.
Andrew was a long-time chair of Calvines and I think CEO before that. Hugely involved in local cricket and was really giving tight in his own way. So he's a few weeks on now, but yeah, he was quite a force.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. It's very important to recognise Andrew as Managing Director of McAlpines, and they've been very generous through his involvement to lots of organisations in our district. So I think it would be appropriate to stand and observe a moment of silence for his passing. Thank you. All right, we now come to confirmation of minutes. I've got the minutes of the meeting of the council on the 7th of May. Is there someone prepared to move? Councillor Redmond, second to Councillor Fulton. It's procedural, unless there's anything you wish to add. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Got the minutes of the hearing submissions. It's 4.2, 4.3, and also 4.4 and 4.5. I think we can move them all as one block. Is somebody prepared to move me? Councillor Kean, seconded Councillor Goldsworthy. Anyone wish to speak to those?
Thank you.
I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. Any matters arising from those minutes? I have no deputations or presentations I've been advised of. There's no adjourned business, so we now come to reports, item 7, and first to 7.1, which is the submission to Environment Canterbury's long-term plan. So, Timmy, if you want to come forward, it's really accepting it after the fact because deadlines were such that we needed to get that in, and it had been circulated to members. Thanks, Timmy.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, I would like the report to be taken as read. In the time since we've submitted submitted a submission to ECAN, they've held meeting hearings and deliberations, and so a minor update has been included in the report for you. Within 3.1 and 3.11, what we talk about is submissions. The main update there is that the proposed rate increase will probably decline by about 6%, from just over 24.2 to just under 18%.
I believe it's 17.9, yes.
Yes, it's under 18.
All right, I'm sure that was on the strength of our submissions. Just to acknowledge and thank you for all the work that went into the preparation and the numbers of workshops that we had that led to that, so thank you. Any questions? So there's a recommendation here, some of Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Fulton. Do you wish to speak?
Just to say a big thank you to Timmy and her team. You've been working really, really hard with so many things, and you're doing an amazing job for us. We really appreciate what you do, so thank you so much.
Thank you. You wish to speak, Councillor Fulton?
Thank you also Timmy and your team. I think we saw from the ECAN the process itself and their own deliberations just what a complex area it is trying to marry this all up, and I think submission felt to me well consistent. Hopefully we could have some traction on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the microphone applied. You're going to turn your microphone on, Councillor. Thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. Just give me a moment. I've been signed out of my system here, so I'm just trying to make sure I've got that back in. into it anyway. I might do the summary. If I need to go into it, I'll get something else to do. Alright, so we next have 7.2, which is 46 Main North Road. Is that Anna?
Yep.
Thank you. Hello. Welcome to the meeting.
Thanks for having us. Hopefully you'll read this, it's a fairly short and simple one, but basically providing you guys with an update on the progression of the reserve classification for 46 Main Road in Kaipoi. We've now completed the public notification process and that was published in the North Canterbury News in February. Once that was published, we have received no submissions or objections from the public in relation to that reserve classification. We also obtained a cultural advice report, and that report advised that we're not in opposition to the proposal either. So we're basically seeking your approval to the delegation to complete and execute the implementation to have the reserve classification.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Becky.
Yeah, thank you. That was originally obtained for drainage purposes. Where does that leave us for the future? If we turn it to a reserve, which I'm obviously in favour of, and bearing in mind that our drainage committees talk about the flooding of farmland and stuff down there in the future, does turning it into reserve remove all options for drainage or not?
Our plan is to classify it as a reserve local purpose utility,
Yeah.
so that will give us the benefits of
We could still put a drainage collection-y thing in there. Okay.
Any further questions? Councillor Rivers.
Thank you. Does the change in classification prevent it being leased out until we may want it or do something better with it?
No, it doesn't. No. We do lease a lot of reserve land. So, no, it's not just.
Okay, any further questions? So we have a series of recommendations. Some need to move. Councillor Blakey, seconded Councillor Williams. Would you like to speak?
Not really, all pretty clear.
Councillor Williams, do you speak?
No, I think it's a good thing. We can retain it for drainage if we need some of that problems in it, but the good thing is I think entering Kaipoi, we're going to be able to clean it up and make a nice bit more presentable, so it'll be really good.
Okay, any further speakers? Right reply. So I've got the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary? I declare that carried. Right, thank you. Next is item 7.3, 129 Giles Road. Glenn and Grant.
Good afternoon, Council. The report originally was to issue a lease for the minibus trust, the North Canterbury Minibus Trust, which is currently located at Blake Street. As you'll be aware, the trust has been looking for a location over the last few years in which to lease out, build a building and operate from. So they're in essence a community service that's supported through ECAN funding, which helps people get to lifeline services such as hospitals, doctor appointments, and other transport needs as well. So they're a really good group that operate within our community and have done for a long time. You'll see that even in the last few years they've actually doubled their fleet from 6 to 12, and that's in relation to a lot of the plant that they're getting and the great service that they do. So look, this is around providing them a space that they can operate from. You'll be aware that there has been some prior expectations of the land in question at 129 Johns Road. Was originally acquired for running purposes, and then there were some expectations around some potential housing there as well. So you can see that what we're trying to do with the lease is make sure that there's residual land left over so that that could be achieved in the future as well. I'll take the report as read and happy to answer questions.
Okay, just before I come to questions, I'm wondering, Grant, if there should be a suggested P which says that something along the lines that the balance be considered by the property portfolio working group to bring a report back to council. It's just that there'll obviously be some residual land if this is approved, it's how that is then used. Whether you'd be happy with that being included. I'll just foreshadow that to members. Any questions? Councillor Keys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Grant. I'm not sure if this is working. It seems to be flashing. Thank you, Council. Grant, thank you for the report. Just with regard to development contributions, they're not actually in the recommendation. Is that going to be a requirement of the trust to actually pay any development contributions? And
that's a good point. I'll have to go away and find that out, but I wasn't there to leave there with me, but I can find out what that might be.
it might be an additional queue in terms of also putting in a note that council would be funding the development contribution to some other note that could be added into the
Perhaps it's
recommendation.
just something that the CEO might just want to reflect on.
I think the development contributions have been paid by the developer of the area in the first place, so this is just like a normal lease agreement that they want to be taken care of.
Right, lovely. And just one further question. In terms of the landscaping that you're going to in recommendation N, so is that at the cost of the green space or is that at the cost of the trust?
So we'll work that out with the trust, but there's certainly be time cost from us doing that. There's the expectation that they will be able to help with some of the planting and so forth.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Councillor Redmond.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I echoed one of my questions, so I won't repeat that one. The problem appears to have originated with the Marsh Road site suddenly becoming unsuitable. What exactly is the problem there, and can it be the building be designed to fit within the boundaries here?
Good question, because it's something that we looked at a lot when we got the feedback around Marsh Road. In essence, the changes that would be required to make that compliant or to gain consent for the waterway setback would have made the site unusable in the view of the Minibus Trust, and it wouldn't have been changes that they could have supported, hence going to look for another site that would fit better with how their design was, or how their design looked. So it was a waterway setback that was the issue.
So there's no chance at all of getting consent for this structure to be built there?
It was made very unlikely, or at least it wasn't going to be as straightforward for the trust and probably be quite an additional cost to them rather than moving to a different site and reapplying for building consent and a lease there. That was a more favoured option because it looked more viable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? No, I'm going to move, actually. Yes. So, any other questions? So I'm going to move 7.3 as is with the addition of P, that the balance be considered by the property portfolio working group and a report be brought back to council. A report to then be brought back to council. If you just second that.
Yes.
Yeah. So just speaking to it, firstly, just acknowledge all the effort that I know has gone in by the Minibus Trust, and I acknowledge Mr. Sargison, who's here today, and I know there's been a huge amount of work going into this. It's a shame that the Marsh Road site wasn't able, once there was further consideration of other items, it was going to be too onerous and would have reduced the size of the building substantially, and also that flexibility that they were looking for in terms of my understanding of the size of building, so it could be used by potentially other community groups at a time when there are other items that where a bigger space could be utilised. And what I'm referring to here is knowledge is around the Rotary group, and they do book sorting and other things, so it was looking to have a bit more of a broader purpose at those times when there's a peak there. But principally, This is here to provide a effective space for the minibus trust to go with all their vehicles so they can be covered. They're currently sitting outside over in the beside the old printing building, which houses currently the Model Railway Club, and it's not really good for those vehicles to be sitting outside, and it's been a long-term aspiration that the building be covered. The minibus trusts have also raised a substantial, they've raised the necessary funding as I understand, and if we don't give an indication of the support for this, they could lose that funding from RATA and other organisations because there's been a significant amount of time. So it's really important that we do make a decision. We did ask our staff to explore other options and other than the Marsh Road site, and where we had land where this could be possible, and this was after looking at all the land options, this was the one that came up as probably the best location of all. There will be, all the land won't be required, and so that's why I put in P where there's an option that where the surplus land is, the options being considered around that, and that come back to council. And I don't want to preempt what that might be used for. That would be, I'd like to see the report in general and see whether it's standard disposal or there might be another use that could be considered. This year is just the right decision to make, so I fully support it because it's helping an organisation that does so much for our community. Taking hospital appointments, just basically distributing them to various things, including to church services or taking them out for shopping. It's a well-used service and highly valued by our community. So it's something that has my full support. Councillor Ward, if you wish to speak.
Just to concur with what you have to say, this is a very worthwhile trust that really does support our community very well with its volunteers. And this site is actually very good. It's nice and central. It's perfect, and I'm really pleased that we can support it and for them to get a really nice, a good base and to look after the vehicles. So I hope you'll support this.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Okay, there's nothing to respond to, so I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Declare that carried. Thanks, team. Okay, we now come to matters referred from committees to community boards. There's nothing there, sorry. Item 9, which is health, safety and wellbeing. 9.1, which is the health, safety and wellbeing report. Mr. Millwood, you wish to speak to the report?
I just hope the account's been, the report's been read.
Is there any questions for our Chief Executive on the report? So someone's free to move. Councillor Goldsworthy, second, Councillor Keys, do you wish to speak?
Thank you,
Any further speakers? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. We now come to committee minutes for information. It's the minutes of the Audit Committee, Audit and Risk Committee of 14th of May. Someone prepared to move, perhaps? Councillor Ward, seconded, Councillor Bryan. I'm sure you did. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. And there's a series of minutes under item 11 from our community boards. Someone prepared to move the reception of those. Councillor Williams, seconded, Councillor Redmond. Just as I go through, is there anything from the Oxford or Hoker board that any of the members wish to highlight? Regression? William Sefton? Kai Poituahiwi? Alright, so we'll come to, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Just council portfolio updates. Under 12.1 EV relationships, the Chief Executive and myself have had a couple of very good recent meetings, so that the relationship's progressing well. There's nothing I really want to update on those, they're all relationship related, so there's nothing new to update on. Any questions? Okay, Greater Christchurch Partnership, it hasn't met since our last council. The proposal is, I think I mentioned, to go to quarterly meetings. There was a meeting last week informally of the mayors and the chair, or the acting chair of ECAN, which was just one that we intend to do often, is to have a regular get together and just share what's going on with our councils. The meeting of the partnership to move to quarterly, we think is a good use of resource, where a lot of the meetings we were coming there just simply reporting on the report with no real action, so it's just maximising the use of staff time and also our own elected time. It's where it's better spent, not meeting to meeting. So, any questions of me? Okay, government reforms. Last week there was the first reading of the second water services bill, which was introduced through the budget. Initial reading, it's aligned with where our thinking is in that space, but we'll have a more detailed look at that. And really would like our council to make a submission on that, so we'll be back in touch on the detail of that. But given that we developed that policy, it mirrors the work. I would be surprised if we didn't support that, but we'll just see. The devil's always in the detail on those matters, but in that space, very comfortable with where the government's heading there. The others, well, there's been a range of particular views with respect to Māori boards, which I made clear that we weren't, based on some initial comment that we all had discussion, that we wouldn't be signing a letter which came from Local Government New Zealand, because they were seeking that based on some feedback that's been given by a couple of councils, and really informed on two bases. One is that our local rūnanga, Ngāti Rere, do not support that bill, and secondly, we just felt that it wasn't the right priority for LGNZ to be focused on. So that was the basis of the feedback that I put, and I know there are a number of councils that felt similarly, so we didn't support that. Haven't heard where RM reform is going, and of course the budget will be as over that as I am in terms of what we've read in various priorities. But one I am very pleased to see is that the report that the regional councils put together, which was before the deluge, which is a co-funding model with the regional councils put together. It appears that it has received substantial support in the budget. Haven't seen the detail yet in terms of what benefit that might be to our district, but it's a substantial commitment, and one that regional councils should be commended on, because it was I think one of the pieces that really does add and will make a big difference. If ours isn't funded now, I understand it was multi-year, so we would hope that that will benefit us. All of us who've been through weather events and have seen the impact, more work that can be done to build in resilience, heightened stock banks that protects our community is a real priority, and we know through our own budget that we've prioritised significant resource in there to undertake that. But there's one other that's come about, which is a change to the FAR rate, which the government are looking at. It's presently not funded in the NZTA budgets, but this is where the FAR rate in relation to emergencies. So in our district, if roading and those networks are affected, we're eligible to apply for a significant reimbursement for that. Without that, it would be a significant challenge to us and to our ratepayers. So there's a proposal at the moment to reduce that considerably. I was in a discussion a couple of weeks ago, Local Government New Zealand was leading around transport, and there was a senior official there from Waimakariri, and the feedback that was given was that they need to find another model. I said, well, that's fine, we're happy to do that. What might that be? And I suggested, without, which would need further work, why don't they look at the EQC model, which is where a levy is taken, it is then set aside in a national fund, so when events happen, there is a fund in which that can be called upon. There is going to be more and more of these events, we know that, and can't sit there unfunded or supported because it simply puts too much cost on the ratepayers. So whether the Crown puts some money in and it's topped up by another levy, I'm not fixed on that, but it was just a suggestion of how that funding gap could be potentially considered. So it's something that I raised at the Mayoral Forum and they were attracted to that idea, and we'll just see something that we can develop in our own submission. If there's support, we'll find the right opportunity to raise that. All right, any questions? All right, Canterbury Water Management Strategy, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought for good measure I'd circulate the report from the Waimakariri Zone 30's Action Plan funding. I think it's been perhaps captured in some other reports, but for the benefit of the governments and councillors, I've got the rundown there of our allocation. Total spend for the year, the action plan was $66,000. Noted the range of projects there, successful applicants and 3 unsuccessful applicants. I should note actually, as per the meeting last week with Sophie Ellen, some of these projects will also be supported by the ZIPA funding. So I think we've struck a good balance there, and it's in total. One of the most notable projects is the 3 Lees Roads properties. I'm particularly excited by those, having toured the area. I think it's a good example of perhaps sort of you might have peri-urban sort of property meets sort of wetland meets farmland, and trying to strike that balance between sort of drainage and urban development, wetland recovery. Some good projects, and just sort of note I had just recently seen the WDC's communications of local newspapers on nitrate contamination. I think that strikes the right messages there, that we have had a bit of publicity on the reporting. Although well to be wise after the fact, but it just goes to show, one reading 20, next reading comes back, it was just over 1 to 2 or something. I mean, it's the vagaries of testing between one property and another, one day and another. It's a pretty fraught area. We do have to take it seriously, but I think I do feel that we probably made the right decision in not promoting this particular testing, from a private sector group. Maybe it just shows that actually we've got to seriously consider managing the process a bit more ourselves with our partners, with accredited labs, etc. And I just observed also, I think it was pleasing to see ECAN's final rating position after the long-term plan consultation come back a long way. I'm not quite sure how they did it, how they managed it, but no doubt it was, as per our processes, a lot of dutiful consideration. Still quite a sting for our ratepayers in ECAN, but I think they struck a good balance, and hopefully they took some WDC's views into account. That's good for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fulton. Just on the water management strategy that's discussed at Mayoral Forum on Friday around future of zone committees, there's been no decision made. on that, but there was a workshop around that, and I just made it clear that one size doesn't necessarily fit all, because it might not be working in other areas doesn't mean that the model we have, what is here, which to me appears to work, should be chucked out. So I've asked that that yourself as our representative and the chair of the Water Zone Committee meet with those who are reviewing this, so that there's those views are taken into account. I don't want to meet with them by myself, in the sense that I'm not directly in touch with it as you are and the chair, so certainly welcome their opinion. And just on the point you raised around the Greenpeace testing, it's been completely misleading, and even their own methodology has been called into question from what they tested one property and really upset that landowner, worried them, came back that there was errors in their own methodology. So you've got to be really careful when you're out there doing that, that it's not unnecessarily scaremongering with people. That's what worries me. When organisations come in like this, I want to reassure our public that our public supplies are safe and secure, and we are regularly testing those, and are well beneath and well within the limits which are acknowledged by Te Mata Arawai, who are the water regulator, and they are the authority. I've said to people where they have been concerned, we're always happy to provide advice and for people if they wish. So those who I realise, I think the Hagen board tomorrow night has got a presentation here from residents, but just rest assured that our own suppliers certainly are. We've had our staff have looked at that, so the public feedback we provided is to reassure people that we're, obviously naturally alarmed around that there isn't, as far as our suppliers are concerned, a risk that was indirectly being implied. Any questions of Councillor Fulton? Thanks, Tim. Do a great job in that space. So the other three portfolios, the portfolio leads aren't here. There is a climate change and sustainability, a climate change working group which I chair, which is with representatives from each of the councils. It's tomorrow. It's furthering the climate change partnership plan. It'll be further discussed there tomorrow. All right. Okay, we'll move on from those. I have no questions, standing orders, no urgent general business. Now, on the chair, I'll move matters to be considered publicly excluded for the reasons that are set out. Someone would to second that. Seconded Councillor Cairns. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. We're now public excluded. What we'll do is we'll just briefly have an adjournment. We'll just get things set up.